So next up is a case study developing the development of digital solutions in the mineral exploration space. Our presenter today is Don Smith, Managing Director, Tempest Minerals. Don is a geologist and entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in the mining industry. He has worked in operational, development, exploration, and consultant roles for junior through the multinational firms on every continent, right? Except Antarctica, but it's on the list. He has a Bachelor of Science from Newcastle University and a Master of Business Administration from the Australian Institute of Business. He has always been passionate about technology, and innovation and implementation has always been a strong focus through his career. Please welcome him on stage.
I'll take this one. Thank you. Hi everyone, and apologies for the unconventional presenting format today. You can see I've had an injury which has unfortunately taken longer to recover from than I planned. While I'm here representing Tempest Minerals today, I want to point out that I'm speaking on behalf of a number of groups. Some of you may have seen our panel discussion yesterday. And there's an exciting disclaimer for everyone to read in their own time. Okay, so first picture I've brought on the screen could be a red flag for a few people because it's a picture of myself. It's not going to be a big self-promotion or anything like that, but this was one of the better pictures I had of us using tech in the fields right when we started this journey about 5 years ago. And I think it's very cool, the juxtaposition of technology and I guess nature there, me taking a geology reading. It's also a cool picture because it's got a cross, and not because we're in the city of churches, but because there's this continual talk of us being at a crossroads here in the mining industry and moving into this digitisation. All right, so again, it's not about me, but a lot of this is my experience and in my opinions. And most stories start from a start point, which is a problem, and trying to, when you get past that problem. So the mining industry has plenty of the problems. I think we can all acknowledge that. I am going to pick on three key areas and just say what my opinion of how those problems are developing and some of the ways that we're addressing them. Inefficiency, collaboration, and more. So first one, we've got some what I'm going to call pins. So these are things that I guess you feel aren't really in the digital space and are holding us back, and but we all revert to them when we have when we encounter stress in a work environment, and it might feel comfortable. But often I think that we're actually wearing the emperor's clothes when we use these pins. So the first one is of course paper. Don't get me wrong, I love paper. I'm a geologist, and if you give the average geologist a piece of paper and the pen will draw all day, right? And but I also like smoke signals, and I really love Morse code. But if I want to talk to my friends in Europe, I don't send Morse code. I use WhatsApp because it's more efficient. And I think that's the way that we need to look at that in many ways. The second is particularly geologists in the mine industry. We spend, the average geologist I know doesn't do any geology. They just type numbers into Excel. And I know most of us didn't do 4 years of study to go into a career of data entry. So we have to get away from that. And side note, for anyone who hasn't spoken to my colleague Udit, who's got the booth just outside the door here, at Grid, you should go and talk to him, because this is the future of data collection, and we use it extensively. I've lost count of all the ways that we've integrated into our company, and I think it's really cool that when we're trying to push this change to digital adoption with everyone, you want to make it a pleasant experience, right? So I think that's one of the things that they're doing really well. So if you haven't spoken to him already, you're behind, so go talk to him. So a second category of inefficiencies I'm calling crutches today for obvious reasons, but it's also the best metaphor I could come up with. And these are quasi-tech things that aren't really tech, and they're actually holding us back from adopting more advanced systems. And Excel's one of them. Again, I love Excel. I'm a creative, and the things that you can do with algorithms in Excel is, it's unparalleled in the power that it has. But it's misused. I mean, it's not a calendar, it's not a contact list, and it's definitely not a database. It's very, very bad for those things. And so we have a rule, and we've just made a simple rule. We just go, no Excel. I mean, if you want to use Excel, to do some quick calculations or whatever, no worries. But if you're using it for any other purpose, we insist that we engineer a better solution out of that. And our staff have all adopted that very happily. Like everyone loves that. My second one is for those people who know me, big hatred, email. So I could talk about all day about how much I hate email, but I'll just point out a few key things. The three guys that created the internet, including the recently passed Mr. Tomlinson, email was like the third protocol that they created when ARPANET was being made, and it was within a month of making it they realised it was a mistake. This is a fact. It's not nonsense. And there was actually a paper written on in the 60s in that how bad it was for communication and that it was going to cause big problems for what is now the internet. IBM repeated that process in the 80s. And yes, it's great. You send an email out to someone you don't know. It's like sending a letter. But when it's become our default communication, it's really a problem because it's non-collaborative, it's non-iterative, and frankly, I mean, was the latest numbers I read the other day. The average person wastes 27 minutes a day of their workday on email. That's not how much time they spend on email, that's how much they waste because of the inefficient usage of it. So we've got around that by just banning internal email. We just don't do email in our companies at all. Of course, you have external parties, but internally, none. And it's made a big difference. They're much more productive, everyone's much happier. We use Google Chat, we use other collaborative techniques. So what I think is, those pins and crutches, they're holding us back from really making that next level. So we don't want to treat them as something to prop us up. We should be using tech as our springboard to go to something greater. So another bugbear of mine is collaboration and project management. Some of you might have saw the panel talk on that yesterday. This is what the average company looks like. And Michelle did a fantastic job of talking about this with their aspirations for Oz yesterday. And this is a traditional factory-based management system. And there's many other ways of managing people out there, but this is, and yes, it's humorous and it's got a lot of politically incorrect stuff on there, but this is how it looks. So the more efficient way in the modern world where we're not in factories is to have central task-based activities, and you have a circle of people, multifunctional people around that working towards to get an outcome. And that's certainly the way that we operate. So we've got rid of that altogether. We have a flat management structure across our group of companies. And yeah, everyone seems to like it so far. And I also mentioned, so this is just a plug, I guess. There's a company that isn't here today, but they're one of Australia's biggest company. In fact, their market cap is, I think at latest count, about 5 times bigger than the largest sponsor or company present here at this conference. And they're based in Sydney, and hardly anyone even knows who they are. And they are the world's leader in project management software. Hardly any of us are using it, but it's one of the core things that we use. So you go to the average mine site or any company, and there's very rarely you're going to find any project management these days. You might find some crusty old dude using Microsoft Project, and once a month he puts up an A0 chart of a Gantt chart, and everyone walks past and goes, "Oh, cool, that's where we are." But there's no two-way word. There's no investment for the average workforce in where the project or what needs to actually be done. And so I think that's something that we can definitely do better. And I'm happy to talk about the ways that we're addressing that offline, because that's a long conversation. So change management, the last presenter, great job talking about that. really great to see other people addressing that properly. So I see three things that are holding change back. One is a perception, particularly from a certain generation, is that it's not required. It's, we'll just keep doing the same thing we've always done and she'll be right. And we all know that's not the case, and that's why we're here at this conference. Second one is the resistance, and a lot of talk about that. And the way that we've overcame that in our group is by just providing everyone with lots and lots of information. And you say, okay, to stay relevant for your job, this is the way things are heading, this is what is required. And it's been reasonably successful, to be fair. We do have mostly a very young team, but even the people that aren't, they're all on board with it as well. Another thing is fear, and it's a justifiable one, but history shows, and I think everyone probably knows this, that even from the first factory and the first implementation of technology, everyone said, oh, we're going to lose our jobs. And it never happened. It's just the jobs changed from here and they evolved to something else. And the numbers back it up. So here's the latest thing from World Economic Forum. There's minimum going to be an excess of 12 million jobs to what is current, and that's just from the current use of tech. It's kind of a big deal. Implementation. So, yeah, change management isn't easy. And as I said yesterday, it's a well-established science. It's not pseudoscience, it's low-level psychology. And when I was introduced to this book by John Cotter, it really changed my view on how to implement things. And I think for anyone who hasn't, not necessarily his book, but books like it, his book has a 7-step system, and it's based on decades of research. It's not just pseudoscience, and it's an algorithm. It's a if this, then this, if this, then this, and it's 7 steps. And if you skip them or you do them wrong, then the change doesn't work. And that's been proven in so many ways around the world, as I said, for decades. So I think that's definitely something that the industry can be definitely doing a lot better. And we're able to do it because we're nimble and small as an exploration company, but I'm quite sure it's implementable in the larger scale as well. So before we move things, we should understand how to do change and not just talk about changing. All right, so obviously I'm here representing Tempest, and a bit of background for anyone that doesn't know about our company. We're a junior explorer listed on the ASX. We're mainly focused on base metals, gold and lithium. We've got our main projects in Western Australia, where we're exploring heavily right now, but we also have commercial exposure to a number of other operations in America, Africa and PNG. Sustainability, there's a lot of talk. There was talk earlier today, a really good one on ESG and the transition to that. Again, similar to tech, if you start off with that as a base, then you don't have to transition to anything. And our company's that we look at everything from a sustainability lens before we do anything. It's not just buzzwords that we tack on later. I've mentioned numerous times our innovation. You can see on the top left there one of the first users of box scan technology in Australia, which is a multi-sensor array which gives you objective data on any geological samples. I mentioned earlier we're paperless, so all our data collected in the field is done using digital devices, a lot which we've developed ourselves because frankly 5 years ago even there wasn't anything useful that we could use, and we were doing all other cool stuff with drones and yeah, again, talk about that offline. So the case study that we're here to talk about today is our main project, which is in the Yalgoo region. So for those who aren't from Western Australia, even some people in Western Australia, it's about 5 hours north of Perth, and it's a major mining centre. It's been forgotten a little bit in the last few years, and that's been to our advantage. So you can see the large spheres on the screen. They're world-class mines or operations coming into production. And basically the geological maps in this area were completely wrong. The government map is completely wrong. And that was something that we picked up very early. My colleague was driving in this area about 5 years ago again, and he saw some guys digging gold on the side of the road and went, there's not meant to be anything there, that's weird. And so we went up there and we've done a lot of work, and we've implemented our cloud-based big data systems onto this in a focused manner, and I can show you some of the results in a little while. Other interesting thing about Yalgu, which has been very helpful for us in implementing and trialling a lot of this changes in technology that we've done, is that it's got great infrastructure. There's 2 highways, rail, power, water, telecoms. It's very low bar entry for work, actually. So the Malaya area is the main area that I'm referring to, where the geology maps were wrong. And so in terms of our implementation of tech there, we've got all the maps, all the government data, all the private data, and we've just siphoned that from everywhere we could, and we put it into our big system, and it loads live onto our software, whether that's GIS or 3D modelling, doesn't really matter. And that's how we came upon this opportunity. Is you can see the map there. For those who aren't technically inclined, it basically says that everything is either granite or soil. And I was looking at the data and I went, well, that doesn't match what I'm looking at. And so we went out in 2020 and we investigated some of those areas, and we realised that the rocks that everyone's been looking for 40 years are sticking out of the ground there. But because everyone looked at the fairly limited government geology data, they just went, oh, well, no one even bothered to go out there. And it's only a few kilometres off a highway. It's quite unbelievable. And so once we went out there and we realised what was going on, we then started using these systems that I'm talking about, our tech-based field systems, and this is what we came up with very quickly. So we've reinterpreted the geology for the entire region, and we've also got quite a number of targets. And so I've mentioned a few times there the way we've been working, and collaboration is a big part of it. So we have a number of strategic partners. We also develop things in-house, but critically, we're all sharing the same infrastructure and the same ideals and the same systems. So that's a real bonus, and I think it's something that we should all consider. There was talk yesterday about the bits not plugging in together. I think if we all started to get a universal idea of how to work together in the industry, then we'd also be being a lot more efficient. Sorry, there seems to be a bit of discord between the timing here. All right, so here's an example of our workflow. On the left, we've got our people who are doing stuff, and they're entering data using different tools. So I'm relatively agnostic when it comes to what tools people use to do things. I mentioned Grid earlier as a primary one for our geoscience data, but we're also using BoxScan and all sorts of stuff. And it all goes into our cloud database, who Rochelle is managing over in the corner there and doing a great job. And then that's available in the cloud in real time. So someone does some mapping points, or they do some drill core logging, goes into the cloud, and then they can use, again, tool agnostic, QGIS, Leapfrog, Vulkan, Micromine, whatever, and you can do your 3D modelling and your geoscience and all that stuff in real time. And this isn't new, as I think some people heard me say yesterday. I was doing this in the late 90s, early 2000s, using the technology then with VPNs and now, but now we've got much more powerful stuff. So we should be really taking that next step. And I know a lot of companies are heading this direction and doing cool things. It's not something special, but it is working for us. And that's what I'll show you now, is we have some outcomes. So in a couple years, from scratch, from a concept to drilling the first hole in March into this brand new region, it was 50 kilometres of strike, and it's never had a lease on it before. So there's no background for us to work with. Everything we've done, generated it. This would be a big project for a big company, and I think we've done really admirable. And the outcome was our very first drill hole hit 3 mineralised systems, including some nice copper that you can see on the screen there. I think that's pretty good proof of concept. There's some contact details for Tempest Minerals, and I'd like to hear any questions if we've got any.
Any questions from the audience?
Wow, I did such a great job.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nahum. So everyone, that was the last session before lunch. We have a 1-hour lunch now, just outside here. So I'll see you here again at 1:45. Thank you.